What's going on, everybody? Pete here at FLYFISH, and before we get into this, if you could just hit like and subscribe, it would really help us out. And today I want to get into a simple small bug that just absolutely gets eaten. So in the vise we have got the Daiichi 1120 size 16 for the bead. I've got a Hareline 3/32 inch brass bead just in black. And today we are going to tie a red brassie, one of my favorite little bugs. And instead of using some weighted wire that's just going to be bulky and not work real well in a bead this size, I've just got some ultra wire size small, and the color really doesn't matter. We're going to cover all this up. But since we're tying a red one, I've got red wire out, so guess what? We're going to use red. So excuse my fingers here for a second. Just want to get a little bit of a cut here on that wire. Maybe. There we go. And like always, I'm just going to roll that over where I cut and crimp it down. And you can use fingernail, thumbnail, whatever you got handy, and just enough so that I can slide that into the back of the bead. And this, of course, isn't going to add any weight or anything like that, but it will allow me to have a smooth underbody and a nice little taper action built into this fly before we even get started. So that's what I like to do on these tiny little bugs. And just got a little bit more cleanup on that back portion. One tough thing on the copper wire like that, it does want to spin on you. So get that seated into the back of the bead there, and let's see how we're looking. Alright, so once we've got that wire pushed into the back of the bead there, I'm going to go ahead and start some thread. And for the thread, I've got some Vivus 12/0 black. And this stuff is pretty strong, especially considering the size. I'm a big fan. Cut off that tag end there. And so now you'll begin to see, as we wrap down this wire here that we used to seat this bead, we're going to build just a small subtle taper here. And when we finish this fly, we are going to have a small thorax of Peacock, and so now instead of having a big gap anywhere behind that bead, it's just going to kind of sit right up against it, and it'll look much more aesthetically pleasing. Alright, so now we've got a little underbody there. So for our main body, I've got 2 pieces of that red ultra wire, and again, size small. And the reason I have 2 pieces is I just greatly prefer tying with 2 pieces versus 1. I think it's much easier to control, much easier to get a nice smooth body. And you may find that 2 works for you. You may find that you like 1 better. So my advice, try it both ways, see what works best for you and your style of tying flies. Alright, so I'm going to get down here quite a ways down that bend, and once I've got it there, I'm just going to go ahead and securely wrap those wires down on the way back up. It's a very simple fly. You can tie a bunch of these in a hurry, but man, it is so good. Alright, so now bringing that wire, both of them up so that they are perpendicular to the hook shank. And for just a couple wraps here, I'm going to sneak this around so I can see real quick and make sure I'm getting these wires where they need to be before I turn it back over so you can see. And alright, I'm going to try turning that toward you. Hopefully you can see that now, and hopefully I can wrap a pretty decent body without looking on the other side. Oh. There we go. So nice even tension, nothing crazy one way or another, not too loose, not too tight. Just once you've done this a few times, you'll find a little comfort zone or sweet spot, if you will, for wrapping these wires. And again, I'm not looking at your side. Normally I'd be looking at this every wrap, but be patient, practice, like anything, you'll get better. And one option you also do have is, of course, coat this wire body with some resin or something of that sort. Fill in some of those gaps, but you can see how it just produces a naturally segmented body. Simple, nothing to it, very durable, and fish love this fly. Alright, so now I'm going to securely wrap down those wires, get a couple wraps in front of them, and now I can cut these out. And I'm just going to use my thumbnail to gently push those cut ends down, get a couple thread wraps over those, and we are ready for some peacock. So for the peacock, I do have some eyed stick here, and I'm going to get about 3, depending on how thick the fibers are, 2 to 3 Herls off of this, and get them tied in by the tips. Now when I say by the tips, I'm not going all the way at the ends here. I'm going to give it a good 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches back from the tips, so that when I spin these and wrap them, they're not going to break right away. And a lot of times this peacock herl can be somewhat brittle on the quill, so once you're wrapping these in, a little bit gentle, and then you can go firmer on the way back toward the bead. And then we'll trim out these tips here, and it is pretty brushy there, but it's all good because the more peacock the better. Fish love it, it works. Alright, so now I'm going to lift those up and gently just start spinning, and what were 3 Herls are now becoming 1 Herl, which is going to make this a little stronger and much fuller as we wrap it here. So you can see how simple this really is, and yet what a great fly. Vital to have in the fly box. This has saved many of a fishless day because I had a couple of these in the fly box. And don't be afraid to tie them in some different colors. My suggestions would be definitely have red, black, blue, and perhaps even a pinstripe of 2 different colors. Alright, cut those out. I like that. Nice little thorax going on there. Just try to coax a few of these fibers back a little bit. Get a couple more thread wraps in here. Make a nice neat thread neck. And now we are ready to whip finish. And let's get 4 wraps there for the first one. And we'll do the same for the second finish. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. Bingo. Nothing to it. Get that thread out of there, and we are ready for some cement. For the cement today, got some Loon hardhead clear, and I'm just gonna carefully use the curvature of the bead here and get this cement to kind of roll onto those thread wraps. What I want to avoid is getting a bunch of cement in those peacock strands or barbules, if you will. I want to avoid that at all costs, because as much as it's the color and iridescence of peacock that is what attracts fish, there is something to the movement of those tiny little fibers. There we go. Alright, there you have it. About as simple as it gets, really. The Brassie, size 16, this one in red. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, again, please hit like and subscribe. If you have any comments, leave them below and we will get to them. And hopefully, guys, we will see you on the water.